Meet someone who just did something most people never will. Her name is Priya. She's 41, and last Tuesday, while stuck in traffic on the way to a meeting she didn't want to attend, her phone buzzed. Her brokerage app showed a number she'd never seen before. 7 figures. She sat in that traffic for another 40 minutes. She didn't call anyone. She didn't post anything. She just stared at the number and felt something she couldn't quite name. It wasn't excitement. It was quiet. Here's what nobody told Priya was going to happen. She didn't become richer on Tuesday. She became different. Not different in the way people mean when they say money changes you. Different in the way a river changes when it finally reaches the ocean. It isn't the same kind of moving anymore. The effort isn't the same. The rules aren't the same. It's the same water. But it's operating by completely different physics. That's what $1 million does. It doesn't just sit there. It starts working a job you never posted a listing for. For 11 years, Priya was the one doing the lifting. She transferred $1,200 every single month into a total market index fund. Didn't miss a month. Not during the crash in 2020, when her portfolio dropped $18,000 in 3 weeks. Not during the promotion she didn't get. Not during the year she moved apartments twice. She kept feeding it. $1,200 a month, every month, without applause, without anyone noticing. At $50,000, her portfolio earned her about $3,500 in a year. That's a nice dinner. It's not a life. At $200,000, it earned her roughly $14,000. That's a bonus, still not a life. At $500,000, it earned her around $35,000. Now we're talking, but she was still the main engine. Her savings were still doing most of the driving. Then Tuesday happened. At $1 million, the portfolio earned her $70,000 in year one, without a single extra contribution, without one extra hour worked, without one extra decision made. $70,000 just arrived, like a roommate who finally started paying rent after 11 years of crashing on the couch. Here's the number that breaks people when they first see it. The median household in America earns about $74,000 a year. 2 adults, often 2 jobs, commutes, stress, reviews, meetings, office politics, sick days burned on actual sick days. Priya's portfolio earns nearly that same number while she sleeps. Same dollar amount. Completely different relationship to human energy. Her portfolio doesn't call in late. It doesn't ask for a raise. It doesn't get passed over for promotion. It doesn't have a bad quarter because of personal issues at home. It just compounds. And here's the thing about compounding, that nobody actually makes you feel until you're inside it. It's not linear. It's not even exponential in a way your brain can process until you're watching it happen in real time. A 7% return on $10,000 adds $700. A 7% return on $100,000 adds $7,000. A 7% return on $1 million adds $70,000. The percentage never moved, but the machine got so big that the same percentage became a salary. That's it. That's the whole trick. The percentage is boring. The base is everything. Let me show you 3 people. James is 40. He has $1 million invested. He earns $85,000 at his job. He saves $1,500 a month. Nothing fancy. Just a plain vanilla 3-fund portfolio. His colleague Ryan is also 40. He has $150,000 invested. Same salary, same $1,500 a month savings. He just started earlier in spending and later in saving. Their friend Layla is 42. She has $30,000 invested. Same income, same discipline. She came to this whole thing late. Give all 3 of them 10 years. Same contributions, same 7% average annual return. Layla ends up around $250,000. She did the work. She showed up. The math just wasn't on her side yet. Ryan ends up around $320,000. A little better start, a little more compounding room. Still not the game changer. James ends up at $2.3 million. Same decade, same market, same monthly transfer. But James started with a big enough base that the portfolio stopped being a passenger and became the driver. By year 5, James's portfolio was generating over $100,000 a year on its own. His paycheck was the side income. Let that land. There's a concept in finance called the crossover point. It's the moment your investment returns exceed your living expenses. Before the crossover, you need the job. Remove the salary. the whole structure collapses. You have to keep showing up. The paycheck is the foundation. After the crossover, the job becomes optional. The portfolio covers the bills. The salary becomes extra. You can keep it. You can leave it. You can negotiate from a different position entirely. For most Americans whose annual expenses fall somewhere between $40,000 and $70,000, the crossover point lands almost perfectly at $1 million. Not $500,000, not $800,000. Right there, at the line. Below it, you're running the machine. Above it, the machine is running. Here is the single most important piece of math you need to understand. It's called the Rule of 72, and it's been sitting in the back of every finance textbook for decades, mostly ignored. Divide 72 by your expected annual return. That's how long it takes your money to double. At 7%, money doubles every 10.3 years. Priya hit $1 million at 41. Without adding another dollar, not one more monthly transfer, not one more bonus contribution. Here's what happens on autopilot. By 51, she has $2 million. By 61, she has $4 million. By 71, she has $8 million. $8 million. Built almost entirely by doing nothing after Tuesday. The first million took 11 years of discipline and sacrifice and showing up and not flinching. The next 7 million takes 30 years of sitting quietly on a park bench while the machine runs itself. If that sounds unbelievable, open any compound interest calculator. Type the numbers in, watch the output. Then sit with the feeling it gives you. There's a famous piece of research called the Trinity Study. Researchers looked back at decades of American market history and asked one question. How much could someone withdraw every year without ever running out of money? The answer was 4%. At $1 million invested, 4% is $40,000 a year, adjusted for inflation, every year, indefinitely. That's not a fortune. It's not a yacht. But here's what it is. It's $40,000 that arrives whether you worked that year or not, whether you were well or sick, whether you loved your job or couldn't stand it for another day. Combined with Social Security and a modest lifestyle, that number covers a real life in most American cities. You're not spending the million. You're living off what the million earns. The principal stays. Next year it earns again. You harvest the returns and leave the tree rooted. The goose keeps laying. You just collect the eggs. Here's the trap that trips people up right before the finish line. They're at $850,000. The market has a rough quarter. Their balance dips to $790,000. They panic. They move everything to a money market account to protect what they've built. And they never cross. The market recovers without them. They sit in cash, safe from losses, safe from gains, slowly losing to inflation at 3% a year, watching the scoreboard from the parking lot. The ones who reach $1 million are almost never the ones who had the best market timing. They're the ones who didn't move. March 2020, the market drops 34% in 5 weeks. Priya's balance falls from $680,000 to $450,000 in 5 weeks. She doesn't sell. She increases her automatic contribution by $200. 18 months later, she's at $900,000. 2 years after that, Tuesday, the people who make it past the line are the ones who kept their hands off the controls during the storm. Not because they weren't scared, because they understood that fear at $680,000 was the tuition for peace at $1 million. Here's the counterintuitive thing about hitting $1 million that nobody warns you about. You stop being the boss of your money. Before Tuesday, Priya made every call. How much to save, when to push harder, whether to take on freelance work to accelerate the timeline. She was running the operation. After Tuesday, she works for the portfolio. Her only job now is one thing. Don't interrupt it. Don't sell in a panic. Don't tap the principal for a renovation. Don't co-sign a loan. Don't get cute with options. Don't hand it to a cousin with a business idea and great energy. The portfolio's only requirement of its new employee is restraint. That is the whole job description. This is why lottery winners fail and slow builders don't. The person who spent 15 years not touching $1,200 a month has already built the exact muscle the portfolio needs from them going forward. The slow builder didn't just accumulate wealth. They trained themselves to leave wealth alone. That's the skill. Not picking stocks, not timing the market, leaving it alone. There's one more thing people don't account for. Inflation is quietly eating everyone alive below $1 million. At $50,000 saved, inflation takes $1,500 from your real purchasing power every year. You don't see it. It just makes everything quietly harder. At $1 million, inflation costs you $30,000 a year in real value. But the market, historically, returns 10% before inflation, which leaves 7% net. Your portfolio absorbs the inflation hit, outruns it, and still grows. Below $1 million, you're chasing inflation on foot. At $1 million, you're lapping it in a car. Every person on Priya's block is getting a little poorer in real terms this year. Their wages went up 3%. Inflation went up 3%. They broke even on a treadmill. Priya stepped off the treadmill on Tuesday. There's also something nobody talks about below the surface of the numbers. The psychology of having $1 million invested changes how you show up everywhere else. You're less desperate at work, less willing to accept bad treatment because you can't afford to walk. You negotiate differently. You take risks you used to be too scared to take. Not because you're reckless, because the downside of being bold is no longer catastrophic. A job loss isn't a crisis when your portfolio covers 4 years of living expenses at 4% withdrawal. It's an unexpected sabbatical. You become paradoxically more valuable to employers because you're not performing desperation. And you become more valuable to yourself because you stop letting financial fear make your decisions. The million didn't buy Priya luxury. It bought her the right to say no. And sometimes the right to say no is the most powerful asset a person can hold. People always ask the wrong question about wealth. They ask, how do I make $1 million? That's the first question. It's not the most important one. The more important question is quieter, harder to sit with. Can I leave it alone once I have it? Can you watch it drop 30% and not sell? Can you watch your neighbor flip a house and not chase it? Can you watch a hot tip circulate at a dinner party and not move a single dollar? The people who reach $1 million and compound it to $5 million aren't geniuses. They're not lucky. They're not even unusually disciplined in any visible way. They're boring. They have a job. They have a portfolio. They live below their means. They don't make headlines. They don't post screenshots. They just sit on the bench while the machine runs. And decade by decade, quietly, without fanfare, the number on the screen becomes something their younger self wouldn't believe. Priya sat in that traffic for 40 more minutes. She missed the beginning of the meeting. She didn't care. She wasn't thinking about what she could buy. She was thinking about what she no longer had to do. That's what the first million really is. Not a number that makes you rich, a number that makes you free. The first 100,000 is about proving you can do it. The first million is about realizing you don't have to prove anything anymore. The machine took over. All you have to do now is stay out of its way.